Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Be Well Rebellion podcast, episode 1. My name is Lindsay. I am a birth doula, childbirth educator, shamanic and Reiki practitioner, and sound healing facilitator. So, I started this podcast because I try to offer a variety of donation-based workshops, but I am a single mother of 4 and I'm just really busy, and I just found that this is a better way that I can get some information out there and engage with you all and not be too overwhelmed, right? So today's episode 1, is called Renegotiating Contracts, okay? And we're going to talk about all kinds of contracts, all of life's contracts. I'm going to start off by sharing a story with you and then discussing a little bit about how we can apply some of the lessons that I learned. A few years ago, I was in the process of a divorce with an ex-husband who got really abusive. I found out that there was $15,000 of debt accrued in my name on a credit card, and I was forced to figure it out alone. At the same time, I was also divorcing him, and I also wrote my own divorce agreement. So there were 2 situations that I learned about contracts, and I'd like to share my experience and my lessons with you. Now, the first one, the debt dismissal. That, one day I got a court summons, and it said, you owe Bank of America $15,000 on a credit card, and you got to come to pretrial, right? A hearing. I was like, oh shit. So I quickly, at the time I had no money, right? This was, my ex-husband was like robbing us and leaving us homeless. I'm talking like full abuse. I had nothing to work with. So I had $15,000 of debt, and I quickly contacted Bank of America. I sent them a notice of financial hardship and an offer to renegotiate with a check for consideration. Now, according to UCC code 3-303, if you send an offer to negotiate a contract and you have consideration for the offer, which is like an negotiable instrument, right? If they accept the consideration, that validates the offer. So in the notice of financial hardship, I wrote, I'm currently divorcing my husband. He's left us homeless. He's stolen everything I have. I have $300 to my name. I can't pay in full, but I want to remedy this in good faith. So those are legal terms that I use. In good faith, meaning everything I'm saying, I'm being honest. Remedy in full. This means that the debt is concluded, right? Nothing else will be owed by either party. So I offered to renegotiate, so then with the notice of financial hardship, I offered to renegotiate remedy in full in good faith. With that, I provided a check for consideration, which was the amount of $150. Now, usually if you're going to offer to renegotiate a contract and remedy a debt, you'll want to probably give like 10% at least, but I didn't have that. So I just gave $150. It was 1% of the $15,000 that I owed. And so I said in there, in the document, if you accept the terms and conditions of this offer to renegotiate, please accept this check for consideration and cash it. If you don't, please return the check so I can apply it to my other balances, and then we can figure out a remedy in another way, right? So I sent that all into Bank of America, and Bank of America cashed the check. At that same time, I checked my credit report. I saw that there was a derogatory mark on there. So I then contacted Bank of America again, and I said, I see that you've discharged the debt and that you left the derogatory mark on there. I need you to please send me a 1099 so that I can provide this to the IRS so that I can claim the income of this discharged debt. Otherwise, I'll have to report Bank of America to the IRS for fraud. So then Bank of America removed my derogatory mark from my credit report, right? So then we went to pretrial. In pretrial, at first the judge was a real asshole. He thought I was some kind of shark. He was like really, really mean to me, and I started crying. And like I had my 4 children there because I didn't have any babysitters or anything because I couldn't. So I have no resources, no help, and I'm here with my 4 children, and I'm like, all I tried to do was renegotiate the debt with what I had available to me. Like, I'm not trying to be a shark. I don't know why you're treating me this way, and did I do something wrong? And he was like, all of a sudden he softened, and he was like, oh no, you did something right, like this, okay, I understand what you're doing, like I see the issue. So he thought it was some kind of like big crazy, like mean, like opportunistic lawyer, but instead I was actually just like a single mother trying to figure out what to do. So then we go through the pre-trial, and I'm like, did what I do, is that like illegal? Like, does it apply? And he's like, yeah, actually it does apply. He's like, so file for dismissal. So I was like, I don't know how to file for dismissal. And he's like, you have to do it. So I had to do it. So I file for dismissal. And on the dismissal form, you're supposed to include legal grounds for the dismissal. And I included the legal grounds of UCC Code 3-303 because I thought that would suffice. Because that means that if you offer consideration and the consideration is accepted, then the contract is valid, right? But apparently that's not the legal term that you're supposed to use in your dismissal. I was supposed to include a term called accord and satisfaction. So my dismissal was denied. So that's now 2 hearings. I brought all my children to. I'm like crying through both of them. My dismissal was denied because I didn't use the right legal term. Now, if you're getting any kind of insight, like dealing with the legal system is like dealing with a whole narcissistic system. They will file motions like the day before events. They will twist your words. If you don't use the right words, then you're fucked. Like you really have to have your shit together. It's very a very yang system. Like there's no like wisdom. It's all like just really cut and dry. No space for like the nuance of things. Anyway, so my dismissal was denied because again, I didn't write the right legal term. So he said, why don't you go to mediation? So go to mediation, and this is the 3rd hearing. In mediation, the mediator and then the collections lawyer offered me the 2 options. One was to pay the amount in full over several years, and then the other was to pay like half in, I think maybe like a year or something. I can't remember, but I do remember being like, well, I'm homeless and penniless, and like I have nothing. Like he even like destroyed some of our belongings. So like I had nothing and 4 children to care for. I was like, no. And they were like, what do you mean no? And I was like, I don't consent to either of these options that you gave me, because they also said that if I was going to agree to one of those options, that my debt would be put back on my credit report. So I was like, well, it's already taken off my credit report. Why would I agree to that? So I don't know. I guess they were hoping that I felt stupid enough to just agree to mediation in a room full of professionals. And instead, I kind of was like, I feel like this contract is valid. So I have a valid contract. I'm just going to say no. So then we get sent to the trial. I don't know what I'm doing. I show up with no paperwork, like no records of anything. Like I was so stupid. I even had to like interview a bank witness, and she was such a ding dong. She was saying she like didn't even know what cancellation of debt meant. I don't know. They're setting you up, right? They know that what you're doing is valid, but they don't want to validate what you're doing. So they just kind of like set all these little traps for you to see if you're going to fall into them on the way. You just have to stand firm and just, learn the legalese though, and show up with your paperwork. Definitely do that. So anyway, it was Hey! So anyway, it's 4 trials. So, I'm crying, I'm sweating, I'm like nursing my infant son. Even during the last hearing, when I'm at the trial, I'm like nursing my 6-month-old son. He's like 6 months by that point or so, or like 7 months. And I am like just sweating. Every now and then my son would stop nursing and look around, and my boob would just be like out for the whole courtroom. It was just such a fucking joke. I mean, like, I was just such a mess, right? Because like postpartum anyway, your brain's kind of only half working, and then to have to be put through all that shit, I mean, it was like not my finest moment. But anyway, I still won, right? I still won. So if you think you can't renegotiate a contract and they try to make you think that like your renegotiation is in some way like not valid, even though you've kind of done your due diligence, got your ducks in a row, and you're like, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be, don't doubt yourself so much that you give it away. You know, like, don't give it away, because it's yours. The equity's yours, and you have every right to do this. In addition to negotiating the debt, at the same time, my ex-husband and I were splitting up, and he was abusive, right? So I had been documenting his abuse for a couple of years because I was like, had one foot out the door, like I was trying to leave, but you know, he kept on making broken promises and kept on wanting to heal or whatever, like had some serious mental issues. So whatever, so I stuck around longer than I should have. I had all this documentation of all this abuse. So one day he acts like a real shithead and, you know, is just absolutely off the handle. And I say, listen, you're gonna have to leave. I'm gonna file a PFA against you, a protection from abuse order against you, unless you wanna sign my divorce agreement. And we signed it and notarized it. And he laughed in my face, being like, oh, yeah, whatever, your silly little agreement doesn't mean shit, right? But if you sign something and notarize it, like, it does mean shit. And so it was validated in divorce court. But then what I learned was family court is a little bit unconstitutional. So like, if he owes me child support and I try to file child support through the child support system, the child support office, if they go to serve him and he says, I'm not who I say I'm not that person, there's really nothing that they can do about it, because contractually he's not claiming his ens legis, right? His I mean, some people call it a straw man, but that's not the right term. It's his ens legis, his sole proprietorship. The name that's on your ID, that's a sole proprietorship created by the government for you, right, when you were born. So he didn't want to contract with his ens legis. So his ens legis, you know, wasn't getting delivered the child support paperwork. So like, that's a moot point at that point. No, there is no recourse really. If somebody's going to say that they're not who they are, you kind of can't really do much about that when you really look into the semantics of, you know, identity. But anyway, so then, since I couldn't file child support because he kept on saying, you know, he wasn't who he said he was, I was like, well, I have this contract now. So I have a contract that he signed that obligates him to do certain things, and he doesn't seem to want to do them. But at least if I were to litigate against him, it would be in civil court, you know, or superior court for the amount he owes me by now, and it wouldn't be in family court. Now, I'm not really in a position right now to enforce that contract because he's a dangerous person and I really just want no contact. But ultimately, if I needed to pursue child support and I couldn't get him served, then I go through the civil avenue with this contract that I have. It would simplify things a lot. And so it got me thinking, you know, as we navigate our lives, we are always trying to kind of grow into our best selves, right? So we are, as we navigate our lives, enjoying a living document of contractual obligation toward ourselves. We're always trying to be better people, so we're deciding, you know, what our boundaries are, what our non-negotiables are. Know thyself, right, like the Bible says. So we're learning about our ancestry, and we learn about our bloodlines and who we are in our place in the world, and we learn about in our obligations toward ourselves. How many times have we made agreements or prayed and made promises to our future selves or to an entity that we're praying to, or the Creator, the Great Mother, Father, whatever you want to say? How many times do you make a promise and then later maybe forget about it? Don't let your mouth, I mean, the Bible says don't let your mouth make you a sinner, meaning don't make promises to your future self or to God or to whatever entity you engage with, and then forget the promise you've made later. Like, how many times do you, like, when you were younger, like, drink alcohol, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm so sick, I just, please let me get through this and I'll never drink again. And then a week later you're like, well, one drink won't hurt, like, it's like that. We curse ourselves with that kind of stuff. So you have to take your contracts with yourself very seriously. It requires the utmost authenticity and also integrity, because ultimately, if you decide you want to lose weight, nobody else is going to work out for you. Nobody else is going to provide the consideration toward that future self for you. You have to do that. You have to show up and do the work. So you have to be really honest and have a lot of integrity when it comes to your contract with the self, and always revisit it, because every thought that you think isn't even yours. It's offered to you. This is not even yours. So you stake your claim to the thoughts you think by the words and the actions that you choose. So when you are engaging with a deity too, or your best self, your higher self, future self, whatever, or God. Some people say God, some people say Yah, some people just say the Divine Mother, whatever. When you're engaging and contracting with that entity, you often fast, right? And there's two reasons why fasting works so well. One is because it takes the equity out of the physical and puts it into the spirit. So then your physical voice is not as much, not as loud as your spiritual prayer, right? And then the second reason it works is because you're making an offering. You're doing an equitable exchange. You're saying, like, hey, I'm not going to eat, right? I'm not going to eat this flesh. I'm not going to eat and nourish this flesh vessel so that I can instead pay more attention to my light body and I'm going to make that offering, that sacrifice to this entity that I'm praying to. That's how it works. Like, that's why it works. You're contracting, right? So you're contracting with an entity, and that's why that works. And you're giving something as consideration, and then that is accepted. And you'll see it all the time when you do studies, like mythological studies or various theology studies. There's all kinds of deities that want different offerings. And it really just boils down to energies. You're working with different energies, and those energies are either like blossom or they contract with different types of environments. And you make an offering, you create the environment for that energy to blossom or to contract, whatever it is that is your desired thing. It's a contract. When you think your thoughts and then you go about your day, like, you are contracting with egregores. Egregores are collective thought forms that basically come alive. I mean, think of Santa Claus. Santa Claus isn't alive, it's an egregore, but everybody engages with it, right? So it's a contract with a collective thought form. So, everything you lend your attention to is a contract. And think about what you're supporting when you buy any kind of goods. You buy tickets to concerts or to football games or something. You then not only support these things with your dollars, but then with your attention and your celebrations. That's a big deal. I mean, energetically, you can't just mindlessly go about contracting with all these different entities and then wonder later, like, why you feel maybe out of control, or why you feel hijacked, or why you feel under attack. You have got to give and take, and that happens in every contract. So as we negotiate with the self, that's an ongoing thing. But that kind of changes who we are. So we have to also always kind of revisit our contracts with other people. To know thyself is important. And then to know your position within the environment you find yourself in, like, that's poignant. And if you find that your relationships in any way are becoming unsustainable, or they hurt you at all, like they take away from your direct experience in your health, or you find that you can't speak freely, or whatever, if they're taking from your direct experience in any way, you need to revisit the terms and conditions, because first we let that encroachment kind of happen in our practical world, in our physical world, but then it starts to affect our health and it starts to affect our spirit. They say cancer is a liar's disease. I really just think cancer is a disease of people who who are struggling to identify and then assert their boundaries. And it's a lack of authenticity. And anyway, so as you know yourself, you get to decide who you want to contract with. And when you're contracting with people, you got to choose people that have common goals. You can't just think that you're gonna be surrounded. I tell my children all the time, there's two types of people. There are uplifters and mudslingers. You can't find yourself in a group of mudslingers and contract with them all to everyone's success. It's not going to happen. You're going to get buried. Like, I married a mudslinger. He tried to bury me alive. You also could find yourself in a group of uplifters. And what happens in a group of uplifters? Uplifters uplift each other so much that the sky is the limit. You know? So who do you want to be? Who do you want to contract with? Do the things, contract with yourself in a way that begets the best response from you, so you can be your best self, and then contract with the other uplifters. You got to have the hard conversations. You have to look at contract renegotiations with the people in your life just like you would with a financial institution. You know, a lot of people say that they don't want to pay property tax because it's taxation without representation. What is taxation without representation? It's a contract without consideration. So like, you feel like the local government may not be doing something for you that you find value in, so you don't want to pay your property taxes, right? So it's just like that with people too. Like, you have to really think about the consideration that they're bringing to the table. And I'm not saying reduce everything to a transactional exchange. That's oppositional. That lacks love. I'm just saying, consider everything that they bring into your life. Sometimes it's safety, love, a listening ear. These things aren't really like quantifiable, but they definitely matter, right? And they definitely help establish the dynamic that it can be successful. But you have to have the hard conversations and be willing to address when somebody isn't necessarily bringing the consideration that you value. I mean, a lot of times people will want something from you, and the way that the mind works is almost like, how much can I get for how little I can give? But that's kind of just an economical sense. But you really have to have enough maturity to recognize that you have to share a common goal and share common values in order to contract with people. And if you don't, it just could very well go awry. Now, another thing to consider is, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to do to achieve your goals? If you're not around people who are matching your effort, that's another instance of iniquity that would probably not fare well necessarily in terms of a successful contractual relationship. But anyway, I want you to think about how every instance of communication between a person and a financial institution, or two people, or a person and themselves, is an opportunity to revisit terms and conditions, make a new offer, right? You're effectively making a new offer when you discuss difficult things, and then you're remedying issues with consideration for each other. And there's a lot of wisdom in that approach, because it's not at all, even though I felt like the court system was really yangy, like I said, like it didn't feel warm and welcoming and full of wisdom. It felt hard and scary. You can incorporate the value of wisdom into the contracts that you maintain with the people in your life. And it's really important that you do that. Know thyself, know your place in the world, know what your goals are, know what your values are, and know what your limits are to what effort you're willing to make. And you got to find people that align with that, and you have to be explicit. I actually have introduced the concept of writing contracts for verbal things. So like if somebody and I are saying like, oh, yeah, I'll do this for you, and you just do this for me. If I am at all, like if it's not like somebody that I'm very, very close to, but if it's just more of an acquaintance type, I say like, let's get it in writing, just so that we're on the same page. When I have done like furniture designs for people in the past, and it results in them signing a contract and whatever, or if I'm going to attend a birth or whatever, I write really, really clear contracts. It's better to be like more verbose in a contract and cover all your bases than to be dubious in semantics and then later be like, well, that's not really what I meant, and then it just makes things really sour. When you think about it, the oldest contract on this earth was between what, men and women, or women and the earth. I mean, women are portals through their wombs, and we've contracted with each other here. Women have a certain role and men have a certain role, and everybody's not operating in good faith anymore. I think that's where the nuance of the division comes from, is that we're not operating in good faith. We don't share common goals, and we don't share common values. And because of that, we're all kind of speaking different languages. But I think about the oldest contracts here, and I think about our roles, our bloodlines. Every one of us comes from a blessed and also kind of seedy bloodline, I hate the division of races according to like skin color, because I think it's just such it's the stupidest way to be. I don't know, but I think we all need to just kind of take a step back and recognize who we are, what our role is in this realm, and who we're here to cooperate with, and how we can do that, so that we can all be uplifters. And I also want to end with like 2 messages to 2 very specific groups, okay? 1, this message is for the trad wives, right? The traditional wives. I see your intention. I get it. I think gender roles are actually a beautiful thing. I love seeing the way that our different biology helps us fulfill different roles in this realm. If you're a stay-at-home mother, or you're at all enjoying a relationship that's based on equity derived from iniquity, which, let me describe that. Like, let's say the man is the sole provider in terms of finances, and the woman is the sole proprietor of the home, right? Let's say that's the situation that works for them, that begets, an equitable balance. When you're leaving, if you were to divorce, you're not getting to just enjoy being a financial provider. You also have to be like a part-time, like a parent as well. You don't get to just be the stay-at-home mother. You're also going to have to figure out a way to provide for yourself as well. So you both kind of like, your roles are a bit shaken when you divorce. So I think it's really, really important that while you're getting along, you establish healthy methods for splitting, even if that's something you'd never consider doing. Because there was a time back in my marriage where if I had, appealed to my husband and said, hey, you love me, right? And he'd say, yeah, of course I love you. I'd say, do you want to make sure that I'm like taken care of for life, even if we, don't part, even if we don't stay together? He'd probably at one point have been like, yeah, let's do that. Let's set that up, however. But instead, when my divorce came around, he was, taking things from me, saying, these are mine, like my car or whatever, saying this is mine and nothing belongs to you because I earned all the money. But it's like, people get so nasty when it comes time to divorce that I just really think it would be wise to create some kind of prenuptial or in the middle of your marriage during a happy time agreement that just says contractually we are all obligated to not get vindictive toward each other if we were to part, right? And I know that the nuance of that varies because people cheat, people change, people screw each other over, and that would, of course, nullify something like this. But too often I've seen these stay-at-home mothers be good wives, good mothers, and then something goes wrong and divorce happens, and suddenly the car she was driving every day for years is his car because he bought it. Suddenly, she's got no way to, suddenly she has nowhere to live because, oh, that home, that was his too. He bought it. I feel so bad for these women. Like, I was one of them. And the bullshit thing too is that I even paid for our home down payments. Like, every home we bought, like, I had a rental property myself that I sold to provide for our family, but like, you know, it was all just a wash when he decided to be vindictive at the end. Like, he decided to be vindictive. There was nothing protecting me. There was nothing protecting any assets that I had helped acquire. Nothing. And, you know, I hate to see that. I hate to see that in my sisters. And I hate to think that a monster comes out of a man because he has the opportunity to behave that way. If you take away the opportunity, I'm sure some of those, at least some of those instances would have been resolved. And I feel sad for those people. So I really think, you know, if you're in a marriage and you're feeling good and you're feeling happy, take that time to kind of like, let's say you're writing your wills, right? Or you're just taking care of your assets and creating trust or whatever you want to do. I really think you should include a potential post-nuptial agreement, like a potential divorce agreement. Because anybody who's studied the Bible, like, there was this Bible version called the Eternal Word of Yah. And I remember when I was studying the Bible, I was always kind of confused because, like, how did Jacob marry both Leah and Rachel? Like, how is it that some of these people have multiple wives? Like, how is it? Blah, blah, blah. I had questions. So then I read this Eternal Word of Yah, and the concept is that these are not meant to be lifetime covenants, but 7-year covenants that you revisit every 7 years and you decide you either want to maintain the marriage. I think they called it like a Shavuot. You either want to maintain the Shavuot or you want to change the terms and conditions in any way, or you go your separate ways. And if you go your separate ways, the Isha, the wife, is the one who keeps the property and maintains all the equitable assets so that she can be provided for, because she doesn't have the equity of wage potential. And that makes sense. And I think that if we had a world where more women were taken care of after divorce, and just through righteousness, not saying that like, oh, she made a mistake, it's somebody else got to pay for it. Just human love for each other, that the following generation would be so much better off, and so many of the issues we face in the world would be so much more resolved. But we don't really care for mothers that way. So here we are. But mothers, stay-at-home wives, consider catching your husband on a good day and ensuring some kind of contractual obligation for his righteousness if you ever decide to part. Because I have never seen a monster like the monsters that come out of some of these husbands when they decide, when it comes to the point that a marriage is over. It's a sad thing to watch too, because it always ends up hurting the children so much. And then the second of this last message I want to give is to the healers. I don't really consider myself a healer. I mean, like, I heal myself. All these like trainings that I've taken, they were all in an effort to heal myself. And then I offered them to other people. Now, when I offer them to other people, I never want the money of the people that I'm helping. I accept it because, like, I kind of live in the world where it is what it is, but I never actually want it. What I don't want to contract with somebody who is hurting and needing love and resources. And I definitely don't, like, if that's their last $100, like, I don't want it, you know? I think about how many people would have taken advantage of me at a time when I needed healing so badly, but I couldn't really pay for it. So when I think about healing and the role of a healer and how it arises, like, organically so well, and how the Most High just moves through those kinds of healing sessions so obviously, you know, we're conduits more than anything else. I just think a lot of people are okay with contracting with the people who need healing and accepting money in exchange, and that's fine. I don't fault them for that, and we all have bills, I get it. But I'm so angry at the concept of having to pay to live on this planet that I really think, as a healer, it's my duty to contract not with people who need healing, but with the Most High, so that I can be a conduit of anchoring in what the concept of heaven on earth is, right? I don't want to, like, I want the blessings. I don't want to reduce my blessings to a fee, a financial fee. I want to live to serve so that I can welcome not just blessings beyond my imagination for myself, but for this entire collective. I want the equitable exchange to come from my Creator, and I want the blessings to be as big and magical and beyond my imagination as possible. I don't want a fee for my services. And so part of the reason that I made this podcast was so I could reach out to you all and share my insight and kind of be available to help you by donation, because I want to put my money where my mouth is. I don't like that there are so many debt slaves. I don't like the idea that when we borrow money, we have to pay it back with interest, which is effectually created out of nowhere, which encourages everyone to rob each other. I mean, what better way to get an entire collective to dick each other over than to say, hey, we're all going to give you $5 and you all have to pay us back $6. I don't agree with this. So I'm trying to do more donation work. I put myself out there. I want to serve. And if you want to, donate to my cause, great. If you see value in what I'm providing, beautiful. And if you don't, my contract's not with you. And I feel okay with that. And I hope that more people are willing to take more emphasis off of the financial exchange in healing endeavors, because I think the people that need the healing the most, or let's say that are ready and willing to do it, don't all have the money to cover it. They're in the trenches. They're not they don't have a ton of stuff to work with, And I just feel like money has become way, way too prioritized in the healing community. Healing shouldn't be such a lucrative business. It just shouldn't. And I also don't think it should be a business at all. I think eventually it should be something that we are all inherently capable of as human beings. And we're not putting anybody on a pedestal. Like, maybe we share insights with each other on different methods and modalities, but I don't think that healing is something that should be a profession. Because in a perfect world, it's just kind of part of our daily lives. It's not like an overhaul. It's not a call to such grave necessary action. And I do know there's going to be a period of time where I'm sure healers are like put on some kind of pedestal. But then once we all reach this level of okayness, which is a world that I kind of envision, I just don't see a place for financial contracts in healing sessions. It should just be more organic. Did I help you a lot? There were times in the past with my doula clients where, like, I live in an area where sometimes I have to travel like 2 hours for a birth, so I would have a travel fee. And if a client was like, I just really, I don't have money for the travel fee, like, can you please waive it? I would say, okay, I will waive the travel fee, right? If they seem like somebody that needs it, I'll waive the travel fee. And this several times I actually had them not just pay the travel fee after the birth was done, but then tip me more because they saw value in what I provided. And I realized I needed the contract to give them insight into what the going rate for my services was, so that could help them quantify their appreciation. But it feels so good. It feels so good to serve and not at all give a shit about the money. And so that's what I think I'm going to keep doing. I'm going to do these videos. I want to talk to you all. I want to share, there's so many things I want to talk about, because actually was somebody who was kind of, I guess it's neurodivergent my whole life, and like, weird stuff that I've been through and dealt with. And like close contact with death and all kinds of stuff. And I would love to just get it all out. So thank you for joining me today. As we move forward, I hope that you recognize how precious you are. The world runs on your blood, sweat, and tears. The equity is yours. No lending institutions can do what you do. They are borrowing from you. They're borrowing from you because the equity is yours. It's your sweat, your blood, your tears, your energy. And you have every right to negotiate for yourself. You need to know yourself so that you know what your boundaries are, what your non-negotiables are, what your goals are, and what kind of efforts you're willing to make to get there. And to look at the people around you. Are they uplifters or are they mudslingers in regard to whatever scope you're looking at, you're evaluating them under. You don't owe it to anybody to contract with them. Your direct experience matters, your joy matters, your peace matters, your health matters. And you don't owe a goddamn thing to anybody to encroach on your own spiritual or physical well-being for the sake of upholding a contract that you don't see value in. And this is, this can be with regard to your friends and family, yourself, your work environment, your neighborhood, your country, right? You are a citizen of the United States because you signed a contract. So you created a contract there. So I urge you to really think about your equity and become the proprietor of all of your energetic exchanges. Choose consciously what timelines you want to enter into, through what egregores and what thought forms you agree to operate with. Understand that if you're in a financial situation that you feel stressed out by and like you can't handle, you have every right to renegotiate it. A lot of what we enter into was entered into under duress or without informed consent. So you have every right to negotiate on your own behalf, and don't let any professionals tell you that you're not allowed. You are absolutely allowed. You're the reason all this stuff exists. You are a living, man or woman, you matter, and you're divine. And the reason, I just want to leave you with this one thought. You know, if you ever are kind of like disturbed by the world as it is, the reason these powers that be that are, you know, I don't know, you can call them evil or bad or whatever, the reason they don't like outright just kill everybody is because they need you. They need your life energy. They need your attention. They don't just kill you. They indoctrinate, or they brainwash you with TV and, you know, the news and social media and all that stuff. And now there's AI like videos where it looks like a real person saying something, like it looks like a person like me, right? And it's not, and they're saying whatever so that you can get on board with that idea so that you can go out and do it. Like, it's just, it's all a contract. Everything you lend your attention to, you are contracting with. So be very, very mindful about your equity of your life energy and where you're allowing it to seep and what you're allowing it to feed. Yeah, and that's that. And as we continue, you know, we'll talk about all kinds of things creepy and mundane. I like to explore the concept of what is wisdom. So in this regard, what is a wise way to engage with your environmental, you know, peers or entities? What's the best way to do it? What costs you the least and rewards you the most, while also maintaining your humility and your righteousness? That's really what it boils down to. And then the path kind of is laid out for you. The path of righteousness, or the path of success, or the path of equity, energetic equity, and repentance. Because repentance is a trigger word for a lot of people, but it's just a course correction. So you can think of a contract, you can think of repentance as a contract renegotiation. And, you know, we all deserve to live our best lives, and we all deserve to enjoy good relationships, and we all deserve to not be bogged down by financial shit that we can't fulfill. So if you need any help navigating contracts with your personal life or your financial life, you know, there are a lot of experts out there. I can help you find them, or maybe I can give you some insight. But if I can do it, so can you. And don't forget how important you are. Everybody needs you to be okay. And you're the only one that can negotiate your own okayness. And on that note, signing off. Thanks so much for joining me today, and much love, and I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you next time.